Let's
go.
Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
And I'm Caleb Terrence.
Welcome to us recording in a cave.
In the cave?
This is going to be pretty echoey.
I mean, why is that different than usual? I don't understand.
Well, the difference between most episodes and now is that I'm being evicted. And so all my things are packed up in boxes. And whereas this used to be a soundproof room, not really.
It was never a soundproof room.
Basically, there's a lot less shit in here. So now it's just us, the table, and the sadness.
It's probably going to be pretty echoey.
Yeah.
But to be fair, what is a library if not just a cave? What has some books in it?
A cave of sadness.
Cave of
I'm pretty
words.
stoked. I'm pretty stoked to have gotten evicted, actually.
Yeah.
It was a no-fault eviction, which is fine. My landlord is just trying to consolidate his assets, liquidize them probably before the housing bubble bursts, which is fair.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be out of here, actually.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll find like another nice little spot. But yeah, we're going to, in a while, a little bit, probably be not recording
No.
for at least a little bit of time.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that it'll, we'll have shit.
You think
set
in
up.
everything that you're going to be having going on, that it's going to be responsible to find time to make a little space to do Caleb Can't Read the podcast?
I don't care if we have to live in the Motel 6 for a little bit, baby. We got to record. We got to, even though
You going to fund that?
Who? Me?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, her parents.
Oh, shit, all right.
No, so there's
I was just go to my garage.
yeah, exactly. Your workshop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Call it something
Workshop.
cooler.
The place I go to drink beer alone.
We're actually behind by a full episode, just because like I came back from vacation and was jet lagged, and you had worked like a 6-day week and just didn't want to, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
I genuinely do think we were doing a break for a little bit, because usually you do that before you take off on vacation. You're like, okay, we're going to take a little break for a little while. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, the timeline worked out well to where I didn't have to, but I was like, I don't care. Whatever.
Why? Once again, it goes back into that like thing where it's like, if we're not feeling it, like, what? Why?
No, of course. Yeah. I will have you know, though, so this is our second anniversary right now of this podcast.
Oh, we already did the second anniversary.
We did our first anniversary. Now we're on our second. It's been 2 years, baby.
2 years. Oh, yeah,
And you know
pandemic's over.
Yeah, and you know what I found? Oh, yeah, it's gone.
It's gone.
The virus is no more.
Why didn't that piece of shit sign the paper before? I didn't know they could do that. Just sign it away.
Let me tell you, packing up all my books, I found your stashes. I found 2 packs of smokes
Oh, shit.
and a can of Ziz.
Wait, you found... Oh, God. Get them out. Get them away from me, dude.
Well, they're all trashed.
I've been fucking clean on those for like a long time.
Well, I know,
now.
and I go back and forth just because I don't have an addiction, because that's for weak betas. But I was like, do I want these? No, God no, they're probably
You don't
years
want
old.
them.
I don't
No.
fucking want them. It's gross.
It's such a lame buzz with such a high risk.
I know. Just stick to cocaine, like man,
if you're gonna get a buzz, like get some
heroin, you
cocaine
pussy.
like an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't no.
Oh, hey, do you know who Aleister Crowley is?
You're not smooth. But yeah, I mean yeah.
No, because I don't need a segue into my segue, but this is my segue. You know Aleister Crowley?
You should kind of try to segue.
So
to segue.
he's,
But yeah. I know Aleister
Yeah,
Crowley.
he's a magician,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, he's like a magician, not wizard.
Not wizard.
That's important. Is he racist also though? I don't know.
Anti-Semitic.
I mean, he's white. He's in robes. Something's
Yeah, but
going
it was
on.
like 1920s magic, so it had to be anti-Semitism more than anything else.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen pictures of that dude's like get up and face, and the only thing missing
he's
from
doing
making it
this
all.
thing where he's got his hands up to his face and he's got a big triangle hat.
You're just like, God damn it, dude, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like,
He's a fucking geek.
You'll fucking poop on your doorstep. Like,
Speaking of poop, let's get started, shall we?
oh boy. Aleister Crowley and feces. Let's fucking
Actually,
go.
you know what would be better is you remember Chaucer, the king of farts, the man who created literally the word,
Fuck, I really
the
should have.
Canterbury Tales and everything.
Oh yeah.
This is gonna be kind of like that.
Okay.
Now, Francois Rabelais was born sometime in the late 1400s in France. Our best guess is anywhere in the 11-year span of 1483 to 1494. No documentation of his early years exist, but there is documentation of his father, who worked as a lawyer in the town of Chinon. So Francois was probably born somewhere around there. The Rabelais Museum in Indre-et-Loire says that they chose the building they're in because it's actually...
Did you practice that?
No, that was off the cuff. Did that feel?
Wow, no,
did that feel French?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Oh, good.
I can tell you're well traveled.
Well, the museum says that they chose the building they're in because it's where Rabelais was actually born, but that's probably bullshit. They most likely found a spot to rent and then came up with that fact afterwards to get attention. I mean,
does it matter? Really?
I no.
It's fine. Who gives a shit?
So anyway, since there isn't much to go on until a certain point in time, our story begins with Francois Rabelais becoming a monk for the Franciscan order in the Fontenay-le-Comte commune in western France in 1510, when he was anywhere between 16 to 27. Now, as we've all seen on TV, there's not a whole hell of a lot to do in these abbeys. Some take a vow of silence, others create illuminated manuscripts.
Didn't they just drink a lot of beer?
You know, probably, yeah, because it was safer than water. I mean, why the fuck wouldn't you? You got nothing else to do but hang around with the boys, and
I'm
you're
pretty
not
sure
wearing underwear.
That was like the deal. Was like, yeah, you're never gonna have sex with a woman again, but hey, there's lots of beer and dick if that's your thing.
Yeah. Oh, we're never having sex again. Oh, with a woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Francois, he didn't do well with boredom. He instead studied books on science and philosophy and law.
And what year is this again?
This is like 1510.
Oh, sure. The science is wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just
Very
fucking...
accurate.
I would love it, too. I'd be like, this shit is fucking crazy.
Giants? Oh, my God. Well, he did all this as well as learning Greek and Latin. His thirst for knowledge even earned him the respect of scholar Guillaume Boudet, who was the leading mind in France at the time. This guy would go on to create the Collège de France in Paris, which itself would create the Bibliothèque Nationale, one of the greatest libraries in the world. But not everyone saw Rabelais' talent the same way Guillaume did.
Is the library still around?
It is, yeah.
Have you been?
No.
I thought you'd been to fucking Paris and shit.
Yeah, I just never went to there.
Your ass didn't go to the fucking famous library?
Because I'm usually with like 7 other people and we have to kind of have a consensus on like, hey, you guys want to go check out this old library? Oh, to check out books? No, I don't read French.
Oh, it sounds kind of cool.
I know. You know, I just never did it. And honestly, Paris is kind of a shithole anyway, so I don't care.
I've heard it's a bit pissy.
It smells like pee everywhere. And it's always because of the pee.
Did you tell me about that on the podcast? Are we just doubling down?
I'll double down on Paris dunking any day, dude. Paris sucks.
Is it pretty at least?
From the
Giving
air.
you a shovel to dig yourself out here.
It looks great from like a rooftop where you can get a great overlay of the city and everything. Mwah. Very beautiful.
So it's kind of like how water, creates like a fine patina on leather, except it's a city and instead of water, it's piss.
You know how you can look at Venice and it looks real cool from the air and all those like sky shots and everything, and then you walk on the street and everything smells like sewage?
No, Jordan, I've never been out of the fucking country.
Well, let me tell you, it's doo-doo water.
It's doo-doo land.
So Rabelais, he was like the smartest monk in this abbey, but the other monks they picked on Francois specifically though for learning Greek, because there hadn't been a Greek translation of the Bible yet until some guy called Erasmus came along and he put the whole Bible into question with his new translations. Like, this may not seem like a big deal, but this one guy's translation raised questions as to what was really being said in the Bible. Like there are people out there who say like, oh, well, this is what Leviticus says because that's what it translates to in English. And it's like, yeah, but if you translate it to any other language, more specifically something closer to Arabic, it doesn't say that at all. And then they go, don't question my American Christianity. That's basically what he did there just by translating it to something else.
Yeah, so there's like no way it's
accurate
at all close to whatever was originally written.
No.
No matter what source you're getting it from.
As a matter of fact, there's a closer to the truth Bible that like has been recently done. I say recently in the last 10, 20 years, but
closer to the truth according to whatever Jackoff decided to put that label on it.
Pretty much, but you know what? It's not as political, so nobody likes it. We're just not gonna go into it.
There's a lot of shit in here about fabric.
That's stupid. So Erasmus, the guy who translated the Bible into Greek, he dictated that the Bible said things entirely different than what the Catholic Church was actually preaching to people. and this caused the entire church to run a swift and brutal form of damage control. New laws, as well as new executions. This caused Protestantism to quickly rise as the Catholic Church began to reform. This era is aptly named the Reformation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, the other monks picked on Rabelais because they thought Greek was for Protestants, basically. So they were picking on him for it.
Nerds.
But the bullying was bad enough that Francois Rabelais actually petitioned the fucking Pope, Pope Clement VII, to allow him to move away from his Franciscan order to a Benedictine one over in Malazet, about 9 miles away. Changing schools won't get you any less bullied, though, But
Not if it's a Catholic one.
yeah. Now, the abbey he went to is no longer in use, but it is still there. It's just this huge abandoned church in the middle of this fucking field, and it looks fucking haunted. It looks cool as shit. But anyway, back then, the Malazet Cathedral was actually seen as a central hub for intellectuals. So, if anything, this was the perfect spot for him.
And now it's probably just used for like black metal band photo shoots.
Absolutely. And yes, they were still monks, but you have to remember everything was ruled by the church at this point, including science. So it wasn't super strange that they were also learning things like biology and medicinal practices as well. Well, Francois Rabelais soon excelled at his studies and eventually taught at the Malazet Cathedral for 5 years before leaving to study medicine at 2 different universities. First at the University of Poitiers, and then later at the University of Montpellier, the same place that expelled Nostradamus for being an apothecary. You remember that?
Hated that guy, dude.
Yeah, you remember that, though? He was basically like a Sensi salesman, and they kicked him out for it.
Yeah.
Like a fucked loser.
He's like in a legit medical school, and he's like, I want to talk to you all about wellness. What the fuck? Get out.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing to get expelled for like when nobody knows science back then, to even look at him and be like, shut the fuck up.
This guy's full of shit.
He keeps wanting us to smell his pee. And we know Rabelais left the University of Montpellier sometime in 1532, and Nostradamus was expelled in 1529. So there is a chance that they actually bumped into each other at some point. Well, either way, just like when the student became the master back at the Malazet Cathedral, Rabelais taught for a short time in the University of Montpellier as well. His portrait actually hangs in the gallery of professors to this day. In 1532, when he was between 38 and 49 years old, Rabelais moved to what at the time was one of the most intellectual centers of the world, Lyon, specifically to work as a doctor in the Hôtel Dieu de Lyon for 30 livres a year. I couldn't find an inflation calculator that went back that far, but I'm assuming it's good pay.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fucking doctor.
Yeah, as opposed to being a fucking monk where you just get paid in butt, sex, and beer,
Yeah.
Maybe not for the best, actually. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if I would.
to.
I think I might stay a monk,
I mean, when you're a monk, you even have to worry about finance. It's probably just one monk that deals with all the financial shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of you just kind of bum around all day drinking beer and getting fucked in the ass.
Just getting plowed, man.
It's fucking woo.
Fucking hate today's society, man. I was born in the wrong generation. Well, anyway, just to give a little background.
Just want to go back to being drunk and wandering an abbey all day and getting my ass plundered by
There's a reason that they only wear the tunics, They're easy to flip up,
by fucking red alcoholic men in rough fabric tunics.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to get down. Wait, you don't know any Greek, do you? Yeah, it's a little ironic, isn't it? They don't want the Greek stuff. Anyway, well, just to give a little background, the Hôtel Dieu de Lyon was erected in the year 1184, but actually opened its doors as a hospital in 1454 and would be in operation all the way up into 2010. It is now a shopping mall.
Sick.
Yeah, so anyway, Rabelais lived and operated, quite literally, he was a surgeon, in Lyon, but the same year that he moved there in 1532.
What do you mean quite literally he was a surgeon?
Like, he lived and operated there. And I mean that literally, because he was a surgeon. He did operations.
Forgive me, I misheard you. I'm getting bored. You better get to the poop. You fucking set a high bar here, and now you're rambling on about a bunch of horse shit.
To the poop. We will get to the poop.
Okay.
It's not horse shit. It's
Is
human.
it people shit?
Yeah.
I'm
All right,
a man.
So the same year that he moved there in 1532, he met German bookseller and publisher Sebastian Griffius. Griffius had been operating for about the last 10 years there in Lyon, At first his books were on law, but he subtly began branching out to the works of the classics and philosophy. Problem was, he needed someone who could translate all these works from Latin. And wouldn't you know it, Rabelais knew Latin from his time as a monk. Now, I imagine he'd ask Gryphius if he needed a Greek translator as well to really put to use the language he was mocked for back when he was a Franciscan monk, but Gryphius said he already had one. However, it was while Rabelais was working in the printing offices that he came across a translation of something printed in Greek from none other than Erasmus, the guy who translated the Bible into Greek and caused the Reformation. Rabelais immediately wrote Erasmus a huge fan letter like, "Oh my God, I am such a big fan. You really showed those Catholics, sploosh." And when Gryphius saw that his top moneymaker Erasmus was getting along great with his new helper, he let Rabelais publish a translation of Greek on his own, mostly of ancient philosophy. However, it was Francois Rabelais' original works of fiction that would earn him his fame as one of the dirtiest, fart-loving writers since Chaucer.
Oh, God. Let's fucking go. Let's razzle-dazzle.
Around the time that Rabelais first got to Lyon and quickly established friendships with Gryphius and Erasmus, he noticed a pamphlet being sold at the local spring fair called Les Grandes Chroniques du Grand et Enorme Géant Gargantua, or The Great Chronicles of the Great and Enormous Giant Gargantua. It was a collection of stories about the mythical giants. From the
Did they just say giant 3 times?
What?
Never mind.
No. Well, in the title, yeah.
Okay.
they were workshopping a bit,
Right.
So it was a collection of stories about giants, from the fearsome to the kind, and it was very popular. Inspired by this, Francois Rabelais quickly got to work on a tale of his own that would be published and sold at the Winter Fair that very same year of 1532. It was called The Horrible and Terrifying Deeds and Words of the Very Renowned Pantagruel, King of the Dipsodes, son of the great giant Gargantua, or, as it is most commonly known today, Pantagruel. Pantagruel's father, Gargantua, was actually named after the pamphlet of giant legends that inspired him to make the book in the first place. So, anyway, now in the book, Rabelais, as an unnamed narrator, says that the story is actually a translation derived from ancient scrolls found in a tomb. Apparently,
You can just say stuff, though.
yeah.
You can just fucking say whatever you want.
Let's put it this way. No book from the 1500s is known for great story. It's mostly the ideas. Like, it's not great
Fair.
writing, typically.
Yeah.
So, apparently, as the story says, men were digging in a meadow where they found an unknown grave. In it was the inscription, "Drink here," and flagons of wine. From the pages these men found comes the story of Pantagruel. Pantagruel's parents were both giants from the land of Utopia. This is actually where the word utopia comes from, by the way.
So he just made that shit up?
Yeah. And
It had to come from somewhere. He didn't just make
Right.
it. He knew Latin, right?
Yes. Well, actually, I want to say, Utopia.
He'd like base it off some
Utopia
Latin shit. I
might
bet.
have been a Plato idea, but I think that it was like Utopia was an idea. He made it a place, and that's where people used it. I think that's correct. Also, could be
What do
complete
you mean
bullshit.
he made it a place? He said it. He didn't build a city.
No, but Plato used Utopia as like an idea of like.
God fucking damn it! You
Look,
met the
man.
philosopher. I was so confused.
What did you think?
Never
I meant?
mind. Go on. I don't want to go back to that. God damn it!
So the philosopher Plato made Utopia as an idea, but it was Rabelais who turned the idea of Utopia into a place.
Cool.
I think. I'm really curious, but I'm not going to dig any deeper because you look really embarrassed by it. So
Go
anyway. So, on the day of Pantagruel's birth, his mother lays down for the midwives to deliver her baby, but instead, quote, "There came out first from the mother's belly 68 mule drivers, each one leading by the
It's kind
halter."
of worse that you don't understand why I was confused.
Maybe? I don't know.
Okay, never mind. Go on.
There came out from the first from the mother's belly 68 mule drivers, each one leading by the halter a mule loaded with salt. After these came 9 dromedaries loaded with hams and smoked beef tongues, 7 camels loaded with eels, and finally,
Load them camels up with eels.
finally, 24 cartloads of leeks, garlic, onions, and shallots, all of which greatly frightened the midwives. By the time Pantagruel comes out, hairy like a bear, it says, his mother is dead. And while his father Gargantua weeps for his wife, he is still overjoyed by the birth of his son, who has already grown big and strong, as he was clearly eating while he attended the carnival inside his mother's pussy.
What?
But that's why he's big and strong, because there were all those fucking people throwing a fair in there, right? So, but his appetite does not subside.
All right, cool. I'm here. I'm paying attention. Let's go.
He picks up full-sized animals and eats them. He drinks full barrels of wine. He causes such a menace that Gargantua chains the child to his enormous crib. He names him Pantagruel, which in Greek means a worldwide drought, fitting for his insatiable appetite. When he's older, Gargantua sends his son Pantagruel to school in Paris, where he finds friends, goes on satirical journeys, and practices his philosophical wit. It's all very Don Quixote-like, though that story won't be written for about another 70 years. But it's all very random in the beginning, like how Pantagruel gets on the jury between 2 noblemen named Lord Kissass and Lord Suckpoop, you know? Just shit like that, you know? Or when he meets a friend named Panurge.
Dr. Poopballs.
He meets a friend named Panurge, who really wants to bang this one lady, but she keeps denying him. So he finds a female dog in heat, takes it home, kills it, then extracts its hormonal glands. The next day when he sees this lady, Panurge secretly sprays her with the hormone glands so every dog in the city will run up and piss on her. That one isn't as funny in the lead up as it is to the punchline, you know?
It maintained a consistent level of disturbing me, to be completely honest.
You know, when a girl's just like, you know, she's really leading you on, so it's like, I'm going to take home this dog and kill it. Yeah, you know.
And spray its glands.
Spray its glands on her. You know, classic joke. Classic French joke.
It's the 1500s and it's France, so, you know, it's not like she's going to have access to a shower for a month. This will be hilarious.
Well, the real meat of this story, though.
Which is France.
Yeah. The real meat of this story, though, comes when Pantagruel receives word from his father that an invading army called the Dipsodes, or Dipsides, have attacked the land. Pantagruel and his small gang of followers he's amassed while he's in Paris, they make their way back to his homeland, where they quickly capture an enemy soldier for interrogation.
What the fuck is his homeland again?
Utopia.
Utopia? But there's enemy soldiers in Utopia?
Yes.
I thought it's Utopia.
Well, yeah, it's perfect on its own, but hey, if you invade, you know.
Okay.
I mean,
wait, who is Utopia at war with?
The Dipsodes, or Dipsides. I don't know which one it might be.
The Dipsides. Some weird Greek shit?
Probably. If it were Greek, then it would be Dipsides, I guess. Okay. I don't know. So they grab a guy for interrogation, and they learn that the king of Dipsody, Anarchus, has gathered an army so large and without number that the prostitution platoon alone is 150,000 people.
It's a prostitution platoon?
Yeah. Of course. They also learn that he has employed other giants to fight with him as well, but none as big as Pantagruel, except for the army general, Luc Garou. Pantagruel sends the prisoner back to King Anarchus with a gift and a message. The message is that Pantagruel's army, much larger and fiercer than theirs, and these 20 guys with me totally aren't the whole thing, they will attack at noon tomorrow. However, if you choose to fight, then have your king take this gift, an herbal supplement. If he can still command his armies after taking it, then Pantagruel will surrender. So the enemy officer does exactly that. He gives the message, hands the bag over to King Anarchus, and Anarchus, although warned that the contents of the bag may be poisoned, he takes it anyway.
His name sounds like that for a reason, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's cool as shit. Oh. Like anarchy. So, you know, if you can take this herbal supplement and still be able to command your men, I'll give up. So he takes it.
Well, this is really dumb.
And it turns out that it's just a big old bag of spice. So he's just choking and shit. He can't say anything. So it's just a prank. He thought it would be funny. So
It's just goofy.
yeah, that's all that was. The night before the big
No, it's goofy that anybody would.
yeah. Well, the story
I
itself.
mean, I know it's a story, but still.
Well, it's also a comedy too.
I see.
That's just the whole thing. It's slapstick. Slapstick humor didn't really come out of like people's like
What?
Slapstick comedy didn't really come out of like people's general area of like admitting that you like slapstick. Like everybody loves slapstick,
The
but
fuck are you talking about?
people stopped slapstick.
Come on,
Look,
buddy. Come on, pull it through.
slapstick-
Pull a thought through.
It
How far
stopped
down the cider are you? God damn it. A rough time. Do I need to take that away from you so you can be a big boy?
No, now listen, slapdicks. No.
All right, come on. What do you got? Are we
so-
going to finish? Are we abandoning
Let's
it?
just go on.
Oh, shit.
The night before the
You
big
okay? You
showdown.
look a little red there.
I'm always red. That's not fair.
No, you're extra red. That's what concerns me.
Oh, the night before the big showdown, as Pantagruel and his men discuss how they'll actually attack in the morning instead of noon and take King Anarchus's force by surprise, Pantagruel makes a fart so horrendous and loud that it actually creates life. Quote, "The fart that he let made the earth tremble for 9 leagues around, and the foul air he emitted begot more than 53,000 little men, dwarfs, and misshapen fellows. While with a poop that followed, he begot the same number of little crouching females of a sort you will see in various places, who never grow except like a cow's tail, downward, or else around, like Limousin radishes." So then they send the little people to an island, and that's how Pantagruel created the pygmies.
This is like if Roald Dahl did a National Lampoon movie.
Yeah, kind of. And, you know, it has nothing to do with anything. They never return to that. Once again, Rabelais just thought it would be funny. He made a big fart and a little poop, and he made little men and women, and they were like, all right, well, go to that island over there. So they did. Now, Pantagruel's attack on the enemy camp comes in 2 parts. First, he has a friend sneak in and set fire to the munitions depot with a long fuse so that it'll be a while before it explodes. Then, with all these soldiers sleeping with their mouths open pointed towards the sky, Pantagruel pisses an arc into the sky where it falls into the soldiers' mouths, drowning them. Those that weren't drowned, the ensuing explosion kills the rest. That's good humor.
Wait. Oh, God. Oh, God, that's piss. Oh, everyone close your mouths. No.
That's all it is. It's
Fuck, man. This man had a career at this?
yeah, this is what he's known for.
It's fucked, man.
However,
Why do I have to work?
I mean, he was also a doctor.
Ugh.
So, you know, sorry.
Yeah, of course he fucking was. How hard is it to be a doctor in the 1500s, Jordan? I'm pretty sure you just had to be born into money and then you just hung out with... Wait, okay, so it's the same, but you don't actually even need a certification.
That's true. His father was
Like-
a lawyer. I mean, yeah, just here, eat leeches. I don't know. However, this plan, it doesn't kill the giants. And although Pantagruel is larger, save for their leader, Loup-Garou, he is still outnumbered by them. Pantagruel manages to negotiate a mano-a-mano fight between himself and their leader. But when Loup-Garou begins to lose, the other giants move in on him. And the ensuing battle is so amazing, so astounding, that the author can't remember what happened, so he just moves past it. And when the battle is over, Pantagruel and his crew find that a friend of theirs got beheaded in the chaos.
So this is like Holy Grail before TV.
Yeah, basically, actually, come to think of it.
Yeah.
So their friend got beheaded, but rather than despair, they simply sew his head back on, and he farts himself awake. And then he talks about his time in hell. He says it isn't all fire and brimstone. It's just people working shitty jobs and making minimum wage. That's it. That's the entirety of hell. It's just your same life, except now you don't make as much, and that's it.
It's your same life, except now there's no strip clubs
Yeah.
or alcohol.
Oh, what a hell.
Fuck that.
It is
Kill
hell.
myself, go straight back to hell.
It's
Fuck!
hell, it's hell now. Well, when King Anarchus becomes Pantagruel's prisoner, rather than execute him, he instead gives him a taste of hell, forcing him to live the rest of his life as a street vendor selling, quote, green sauce, which I don't know what that is here, but in my mind, he's selling salsa verde. That's what I imagine.
Well, I mean, yeah, man.
He also
Or maybe that avocado stuff is pretty tasty.
could be.
Pretty hard sell on its own, though.
Just avocados.
It's just like if you rolled up to a taco shop and you looked at the whole menu and then you're like, I'd like such and such, and then the dude was like, no, but I'll charge you $1 for I just have sauce. I just have green sauce.
I mean, isn't that what we call it when we go to any Mexican place? Like, hey, what kind of sauce do you want? Green sauce. Yep, here you go.
Yeah, you said green sauce.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to sound like an asshole and try to say verde.
I'll have the tacos and nachos. Yeah.
No. No. Just say green sauce. Just say green. They know what you mean. Don't try to do verde, and
Exactly.
don't try to roll the R. Let it go.
The R in nachos. He also forces anarchists into marriage with an old abusive woman just for kicks. Now, the army of Dipsody have displaced a lot of people from their homes, and they have come to Pantagruel for help. He figures that with all the Dipsody people he's just killed, there must be plenty of empty houses in Dipsody. So, bringing with him all the refugees of war, the group one day gets caught in a rainstorm. While most people find refuge under Pantagruel's giant gate, it's the author of this story, Alcofribus Nasir, that can't find room to stay dry. So Pantagruel opens his mouth to let him stay dry inside. Well, what Alcofribus finds in Pantagruel's mouth is that it's like an entire ecosystem, with plants and animals and people that have like just set up shop and shit. He actually
This is like a only slightly more adult Adventure Time.
only slightly,
Like really,
probably the same amount of farts.
like really, just like only a little cranked up
Yeah.
there.
Well, he actually stays in there for so long that when he pops out, Pantagruel is surprised to see him. He's like, "We've already conquered Dipsody. You missed it." And he asks, quote, "And what did you live on? What did you have to drink?" I replied, "The same as you, my lord. I took toll on the daintiest bits that went down your throat." Well, he said, but like whenever Pantagruel ate, this guy just fucking grabbed up what he could that was going down the gullet and ate it too. That's how he survived.
Yeah, but he's eating giant-sized stuff. You can't just grab pieces of
Well, but
large bits of mass.
He's mushing it up, I guess.
Well, you can't do. How the fuck you? Was he reaching his fucking hands in
Caleb.
it between the bites?
Caleb,
Doesn't make any fucking
he
sense.
drowned an army in pee.
He's got to be eating cows like fucking popcorn, dude. What does he grab a fucking cow by the heel and bite into that cocksucker raw?
Yeah. Be a man for once in your life. Fucking get it the rarest cow steak you can.
Don't make sense. I mean, if anything, he would just have to like scavenge like weird little bits that got stuck in his teeth after the frenzy and just hold on for dear life while it was happening.
Well, wait. He said, "But where did you shit? In your throat, sir." "Ha ha," said he. "You are a good fellow." And then he just rewards Alcofribus with a castle. Ta-da.
Throat shit castle.
And in a final tale, Pantagruel gets sick, is fed lots of acidic things, and then he pisses with such great force that it creates the hot springs found around France and Italy. Rabelais concludes the book with a plea by basically saying, look, if you're not into jokes about farting and masturbation, don't ruin it for others.
But he concludes the book.
Yeah, that's how he
I feel like that should be the beginning.
No, I probably should have, because this is actually going to get him in a shitload of trouble. So, but he just ends it. He's like, look, if this wasn't for you, tough shit, but don't spoil other people's fun. Well, as it would turn out, the book was immensely successful, so much so that the word gargantuan became a commonplace word, which of course stems from the name of Pantagruel's dad, Gargantua. But of course, and Francois Rabelais predicted this, the one group that wouldn't be super thrilled about tales of shitting, piss, and violence
Was it Catholics?
was the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Oh, you know about this.
Yes, I have heard of Catholics.
And that is why he didn't print the story under his own name, but instead as Alcofribus Nasir.
Farts McPanshitter.
Probably would have been better. No, he names himself the same as the guy whom Pantagruel gets to know at the end of the story. Like it's his story. But the scat humor was only the most obvious reason the church hated it. Actually, there were no rules on the French language and how to use it until literally 2 years before this. There had been books of grammar about how to properly use Latin, a language no one besides the churches used anymore, that told you where to properly place punctuation, how to give proper enunciation, how to properly write Latin.
According to, someone.
To someone, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But no one had ever done this to a language still in use before 1530, when the French decided to publish a book of their own on French grammar. And they expected people.
It's very French of them.
And they expected people to go by it. Believe it or not, this created a trend amongst the rest of the civilized world as well, to create their own books of grammar. When it came to the English putting out their own book, they wanted their grammar and written speech to be so different to everyone else's that they created a bunch of stupid fucking rules that are still in use to this day. It's the reason that when you write out its, I-T-S, you can only put an apostrophe between the T and the S if you're abbreviating it is. You can't put an apostrophe there if it's possessive. Like, that's its master. You can't do that like you would anything else.
Wait, that
which
doesn't
is
okay, I didn't even fucking know that.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. That's why. It's stupid and confusing. If it's possessive, no apostrophe. You only do an apostrophe if it's conjoining it is. That's it.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, people get like weirdly overcorrected about grammar. Like,
you know what's really funny about that though is that there is a society of Frenchmen that still, God, I wish it's something like the Masters of Letters or some shit like that. But basically, they're this society that are trying to keep French, where all the not like the Germans German, not quite like that, but but basically,
look, man, I recognize patterns pretty well. Okay. I play Souls. So
their stats are getting a little goose steppy.
Doesn't really matter what it is. If it's keep XX, I'm like, whoa, hang on.
Well, basically, their whole thing, and they're still in existence today, and they still bitch about it, and nobody gives a fuck about them. But basically, they have a term that means the weekend, but it, like, in its actual translation, it's like the last 2 days of the week or something like that. And you're supposed to say the whole thing instead of weekend. But what people have taken to doing is just using the English word weekend. So they'll say something like, say like, je t'aime le weekend. And then that's it. And they are fucking waging a war against the word weekend. And they hate it. And everyone just tells them to shut the fuck up.
Some people's fucking lives, man.
I know. Oh, I think internet is another one. Internet is an English word. They don't want it. They want their own French word for internet. And they're like, no.
Fucking make one.
Yeah. Well, they do, but it's long and stupid because it's a descriptor of a word that didn't exist before 1990. So they're just like, oh, how about the web of lies or some shit like that, you know? And it's like, no, shut the fuck up. It's the internet. Like, it's fine. So yeah.
Just call French shit French words. You can do the same. It's fine.
Exactly. So anyway, that's still in existence. Well, anyway, Rabelais decided to go against the grammar book. Instead, he used a mix of poor dialect, Latin, and foreign slurs to talk just like an everyman would. For instance, there's a chapter which doesn't have any narration at all. It's just quotes from drunks. Things like, quote, "This one's bound for my veins. My kidneys aren't going to get any of it." And what's a synonym for ham? As an author, Rabelais...
What is a synonym for ham, Jordan?
Hams. No, I don't... Me. As an author, Rabelais was off to a bad start with those in power already, but this wouldn't become an issue unless he decided to continue. Well, the warm reception to Pantagruel led to Rabelais producing a prequel about his father Gargantua in 1534, 2 years after his first book, simply titled The Very Horrific Life of the Great Gargantua, Father of Pantagruel, or as it is known today, Gargantua. And I don't think Rabelais understood just how much trouble he was about to be in, because he decides to up the ante in every way, though he was still going by a pseudonym at this point. He even dedicates the success of the first book to the people who he believes got him there. Quote, "Most illustrious drinkers, and you, most precious syphilitics, for it is you, not to others, that my writings are dedicated." Basically, people with STDs and drunks, thanks. Right away, the church did not...
God, what did you do for STDs back in the day? Did you just ride it out?
Yeah, you died.
Your dick fell off and you died?
Yep. And sometimes people would fuck you anyway. Like, they're like, man, it's kind of like coronavirus, you know? Like, man, I've been alive for this many years and I still haven't caught it yet. It's going to happen eventually. I might as well just go to that concert, you know? Like, that's kind of how people took it. So right away, the church did not allow you to write about drunkenness or STDs. So he was already off to a good start, and the story hadn't even begun yet. Well, the story begins with the tale of Gargantua's conception. being born from the good King Grandosier and his mother, the Princess of Butterflies, Gargamel. And if you're thinking of the anti-Semitic slur, this sent me down a rabbit hole, and it turns out...
Go on.
So I have to put this out here because I was fascinated by it. Turns out that the name actually came from the main villain of the Smurfs, who was supposedly characterized by pre-World War II drawings of Jews. So there. That's where the term Gargamel comes from. Actually, his reason for
So that's where Gargamel being offensive comes from, but the name Gargamel came from this guy's thing, but it's not anti-Semitic in here.
I don't think it came from here specifically. Okay. I think it was a legit
just
name.
A random-ass name.
Or, yeah.
All
but
right.
as far as I could tell, everything that I looked up when I was looking up the history of Gargamel, it was like always coming back to the Smurfs.
The Smurfs.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism and the Smurfs.
Actually, Gargamel's reason for catching the Smurfs in the first place is to use them as an ingredient for the Philosopher's Stone so he can turn anything into gold. So, but in this case, no relation. So anyway, in regards to his parents, quote, "These two often played the beast with two backs, rubbing their bacons together hilariously, and doing it so often that she became pregnant with a fine son and carried him up to the 11th month. Apparently, knowing that the 11th month that their kid was late and that he'd be due to arrive any day now, the King Grandosier throws a feast to rid their castle of food that will soon spoil. Although the king tells Gargamel not to overindulge in food, she eats a shitload of tripe, which turns her stomach and makes her believe she's about to give birth. But when the midwives come to deliver the baby, Gargamel instead shits so hard her guts start to come out. So the doctor comes over and sews up her pussy and asshole. With nowhere else to be born. With nowhere else to be born.
Why do you have to sew up more than the asshole? I don't understand.
He thought it was funny.
You're like, oh shit, wrong hole. Get the ass. My bad. Like,
with nowhere else to be born, the child instead climbs out of his mother's ear and cries his first words, "A drink, a drink, a drink." They name their son Gargantua and feed him wine. So I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions to a lot of these, but basically during the Reformation with the Catholic Church, even though Rabelais was once a monk, he saw how corrupt they were and followed his hero Erasmus' more Protestant teachings quite closely. And in these stories, he's actually mocking Catholicism quite a bit. This would actually be his nail in the coffin with them. For instance...
I mean, to be fair,
like
if I see any content that goes anywhere near what was just described to me now, it's some super weird DeviantArt shit, and I will shame whoever made that.
Here's the thing: if I was looking,
so I'm gonna side with the Catholic Church in this particular instance.
No. Here's the thing:
write that down.
At first,
okay, fucking mark the date. I'm with the church on this one. You go to fucking hell.
You're going to hell for this.
You're going to hell for that.
No, here's the thing.
That was just sewing two orifices shut, and then having a baby crawl out near, and then feeding the baby wine.
But here's the thing. Okay, for one thing,
get back to Tumblr. Like, no, dude.
For one thing, let me say, this will be called into question quite a bit, whether Francois Rabelais was a Catholic or a Protestant, and I think that he liked the way Protestants were doing things, but I think he was a Catholic at heart. However, the Catholic Church, especially during the Renaissance era of this time, real bad gang of people. And I think he knew that, and he was calling them out quite a bit. Now, my second point here, if I were to go on DeviantArt, and at first glance it looks like furry vor, I'm going to be like, but if somebody were to tell me something like this, then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I get it.
I'd be like, sick, I get it. Was there any other way you could have accomplished that?
Yes, correct. And I feel the same way about that. Because here's why he did that. So there's a lot of metaphors to the Catholic Church in this. For instance...
Is there any metaphor for sewing up an ass and pussy?
Yes. For instance, Gargantua not being birthed through the virginal canal is meant to mimic a virgin birth. So yeah.
Okay, that's not any less weird or kinky.
No, exactly. You could have done it with class, but at the same time, he thought it was funny. So yeah, there are biblical references all throughout this book, but I don't want to stop.
But how can it mimic a virgin birth? They said beast with two backs so much that there was a kid happening. It's not mimicking a virgin birth.
I know. Well, look, I don't want to explain.
Because you can't. Because it's fucking weird and stupid.
And it's wrong. It is wrong. Also,
Okay,
but
look.
that's his thinking for it, which I'm not gonna say I get, but I understand. It's he's wrong though, and it's still weird.
It's just
I get
weird.
it. I know.
It's
So
fucking weird.
anyway, Gargantua was of course born small. He did manage to crawl out of his mother's
I feel
ear.
like this guy
after
just
all.
would have taken, like, if he was alive now, just commissions for writing, like, Sonic fan fiction for, like, weirdos online or something.
Yeah, weirdos. Who does that?
Sexual fan fiction.
Where?
With Shadow.
Well, he does start anyway. With Shadow. You're wrong. Anyway, so he is born small, but he does grow at an alarming rate. So much so that he quickly outgrows any horse that could carry him. Dressing him is also hard, as all his clothes must be tailored to his size. Quote, the bulge of his codpiece was nearly 6 feet long. Viewing the fine gold thread embroidery and the curious gold knots adorned with fine diamonds, fine rubies, fine turquoises, fine emeralds, and Persian pearls, you would have compared the effect to that of a handsome cornucopia. It's his dick.
I get it. I know what a codpiece is, man. Fuck.
It's like a beautiful cornucopia.
Fucking look at me like I'm supposed to respond to that. Like,
But at his young age, what Gargantua himself is most preoccupied with is the best way to wipe his ass. Now, being so large, he tries bushes and trees.
well, no, it's easy. Just fucking 2 wipes, don't look at it, walk away.
As any man would. But again, he's a boy, he doesn't know any better.
Well, I mean, the most manly way is to just never touch it because that'd be gay.
Of course. And you just poop in your hand so it don't splash the water. Anyway, but he finds that grabbing a goose by the head and just sliding its neck through your butt cheeks is better than anything else. In fact, Gargantua dictates to his father Grandosier an entire philosophy on the better prospects of ass wiping, and in doing so reveals himself to be quite the poet. Of course,
Look, father, it's not gay.
The poems are all about the woes of wiping one's own ass. Quote, in dunging the other day, I felt the debt I to my ass did owe. The odor was not orchard blow. It was the worst that I had smelt.
Ugh. That's the most... Ugh.
Yeah.
What's really unsettling, it's not only unsettling in subject matter, but the fact that you expect to build up for the rhyme at the end and then it doesn't.
I mean, it does. Hang on. In dunging the other day, I felt the debt I to my ass did owe. The odor was not orchard blow. It was the worst that I had smelt. Felt and
Fuck
smelt.
off. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Look at that, man. You can't even understand something so simple as
No,
poop,
I can't. It's
poop
really-
poems. Well, impressed
It's fart and wiener jokes.
impressed with his wit, the king says Gargantua to Paris for higher learning. Now, that pamphlet of giant legends that Rabelais was inspired by, he obviously held onto it these last couple years, because one of those stories was of a giant white horse called the Great Mare. Well, in Rabelais' story...
God damn it.
What? I'll wait for it. Gargantua comes into possession of this horse.
Better not be furry shit, dude.
No. Not quite there. In Rabelais' story, Gargantua comes into possession of this horse, gifted to him from another kingdom, where he then rides to Paris. Once he arrives, and being annoyed with all the beggars, Gargantua quote, smilingly unbuttoned his handsome codpiece, drawing out his mantula. He drenched them all with such a bitter deluge of urine that he thereby drowned 260,418, not counting the women and children. I thought you would have been impressed. He drowned.
Why does he keep drowning people in piss?
Oh, he's got a
It's
thing.
a reoccurring. Yeah,
likes
it's
it.
a thing. It's weird, dude.
Now, back at the border between King Grangorcia's land and his neighbors, some peasants from the two sides.
So fucking weird with people that have these kinks about shit like the fucking.
I don't know if it was a kink
And
necessarily.
then James Joyce is the fart guy, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
fart guy, like, why do they
okay,
always have
that
to
was-
write about it?
That was a fetish. This,
Why do they have to express it to the world?
This, I feel like, is just we're watching the evolution of humor, you know, and this is it at its most polished.
This is round 2 of trying the drown them in piss joke.
Yeah, but he thought that he could do it better. It was his Evil Dead 2, if you will.
I understood that.
Second verse, same as the first, maybe better.
Oh, I can't wait for the new one.
Oh man, let's not go into it now.
I know.
I'm so excited. So fucking
Oh
excited.
yeah, brother.
You want to secretly watch it together and then just bring our significant others later, like we're watching it for the first time.
No, we should fucking bring them for the first time.
No, but it's boys' night.
Why?
No, I don't know. I'm working that weekend anyway. Oh. Now back at the border between.
No, you're not. You fucking think you are.
Back at the border between King Grangosier's
Oh no, I can't call in. Yes, you can. If you're that valuable to the point of where you can't call in, then they can't afford to replace you. Okay? Yes, you can absolutely call out to go watch Evil Dead. Shut the fuck up. You're fine. Don't be a bitch.
I feel like you're wrong, but I'm drinking too much to dispute it.
Correct.
Now, back at the border between King Grangosier's land and his neighbors, some peasants from the two sides get into a scuffle over some cake. It's not worth explaining. When the peasants of the other kingdom run and lie about the incident to their king, Picrochole, saying they were unjustly attacked, Picrochole begins a war against King Grangousier. Gargantua isn't in Paris for long before his father calls him back to help, where he makes quick work of the invading armies. Specifically, he prepares for battle, but upon arriving on the battlefield, his giant horse takes a piss and again drowns the whole army.
Oh, fuck, piss horse.
Man, good comedy comes in threes. What can I say?
Oh, man.
Gargantua then takes a large tree and uses it as a lance to knock down the enemy castle.
I got a joke for you guys. Is it end in someone drowning in piss? No. Why'd you think that? Because that's the punchline of every joke you fucking written.
It's like a catchphrase, and then he drowns him in piss.
Fuck, man.
Although the other...
No, not piss. Horse piss.
Oh! God damn it, he did it again! He's a genius! Although the other army shoots cannonballs at his head, Gargantua merely scuffles his hair and has them all come falling out back onto their own enemy soldiers. But surprisingly, the war, and the book, ends with the battle having humbled the drunken, disorderly Gargantua. His father initially sent him to Paris to learn.
It's a much more whimsical Attack on Titan.
I wish it was like it. They don't have genitalia. It would have been such a much better anime if they did.
You really think? Spoken like a true anime watcher. Fucking creep. This is why I hate you people.
Where's the ping pong? Get it? Where's this fucking
Where
balls?
are the genitals?
His father initially sent Gargantua to Paris to learn from philosophers, but it was in war that he saw it was better to treat your enemies with kindness, so that words may be spoken upon disagreements, rather than fought with swords. And maybe some pee. Now again, the book was an immense success, bigger than the last one. But although you'd think the clergy would get their hands on it quicker than they did, it turns out that they were a bit busy with other things. New France had just been declared in the New World, in present-day Quebec.
Oh, where's that on the map? I haven't heard of that.
New France? It's France, too. It's north, you know.
North of France?
It's fucking Quebec. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the Reformation...
So how'd that work out?
I think they actually just gave Canada Quebec eventually. They were like, I don't care. Like, and the Reformation, it was getting insanely ugly. The Lutheran Bible had just hit the streets in Germany, which again seemed to find some discretions between that and what the Vatican said was in there. But this one wasn't totally on the Catholic Church. Martin Luther fucking made shit up in his Bible. But who are you going to believe? This guy? Or the people who are literally burning people in the streets?
You better believe the ones that are burning people. You know it's good for you.
So yeah, it took some time for a book about pee to finally come into the hands of the church, about 12 years to be exact. But when it did, it was brought before the College of Sorbonne, the right-hand school of the Vatican, who were quick to condemn the books as hearsay, overlooking the more discreet references to Catholicism and instead believing that the overall message of the book to, quote, eat, drink, and be merry were just signs of gluttony. That was the only thing they glommed onto. They did not understand the whole pussy sewing thing, as did I. I didn't get it either until somebody online was like, hey, yeah, there's all these biblical references, and I was like, oh, weird, gross. Could have been said better.
So that's what they got mad about?
No, they got mad about just the overall message of them drinking a shitload as gluttony.
They didn't get mad about the
pussy sewing? No. They were
or
like,
the butthole sewing?
No, they were like, well, that's...
Or the giving of an infant, like, wine?
That's how you treat your women and infants, you know?
Well, yeah, I get that they cry, but, like, you know.
But they were especially mad about a particular joke where Rabelais made a pun of someone's soul. A soul, mind you, which is the essence of God's love and creation, by calling it his ass soul.
His butt soul.
That really fucking got to them. They were very mad about that.
Livid.
The verdict at Sorbonne soon got to the goddamn Vatican, who officially condemned the works in 1545. Now again, Rabelais was a close follower.
This guy's writing is just the classical literature equivalent of shitting dick nipples.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You can write shitting dick nipples today and be fine. And if anything, people scoff. Some people correctly assume you're a literary genius. But to him, he was like, haha, this is funny. And he had no idea that he was like about to be sentenced to death. Like,
Really?
like
You
the
think he had no idea? Like, they're burning people in the streets, he has no fucking idea.
I mean, I
Wait,
don't
didn't
know.
he have a different name?
He did have a different name.
Thought he was pretty smart. He was
But
like,
he
haha, Farty McPoopballs.
But he
They'll
did-
never catch me.
As I'll get into, he does drop it because he's just like, people should know it's me. I'm good. I'm awesome.
So he did the serial killer thing where he was like, he was like, no, they need to know how witty I am. Like, ha
Man, the whole witty serial killer thing, it always gets to me because they always perform it in movies as like, oh, it's a thumb drive. He tied his severed thumb to a USB thing. That was in the Batman, and it was like, oh, that's stupid. But then like, you got to remember the BTK killer. He like killed somebody and he set out cereal boxes because he's a serial killer, and he thought that was really funny.
Of course he did. He's a fucking weirdo who kills people. You think he's going to be like in line with what people think is humorous?
Of course he thought that was funny. He's from Kansas. He doesn't know humor. So
if you're disturbed enough to be a serial killer, you're not going to understand humor. Dude, like, it's not...
All right, that's fair enough.
Like,
Now, again, Rabelais was a close follower of his friend Erasmus, who, while I don't think Erasmus was a Protestant, his philosophies were closer to Protestantism than anything else. So, of course, the church pegged him as one. And the current pope, not the one that helped Rabelais transfer abbeys when he was getting bullied, that was a different one, but the current one, Pope Paul III, was the first pope to start actively killing Protestants.
oh,
In fact, it was Pope Paul III that
as
started...
opposed to passively.
Well, the old ones just... the Protestants didn't have a name, so they were just killing whoever they wanted anyway. But this one, specifically, bibbity bobbity, no Protestants on my property. That's who he was all about.
All right,
In fact, it was Pope Paul III that started a new inquisition just a year into his papacy, the same inquisition which would follow Nostradamus for most of his life. So, same
so
enemy.
they did some good work.
Almost as if...
Nostradamus can go straight to hell. I'm sorry, dude. No, fuck
mean,
the
he-
Inquisition. I hate them. Like,
I mean, what did Nostradamus really do wrong besides, he's let PBS and a couple of other like eyewitness videos make like a couple of cool videos about his, about like, is it real? Like some ancient aliens.
no,
type
it's fucking
shit, and
not.
it's-
No,
it's very fucking.
it's
fake.
making a career out of
So
lying.
stupid. Yeah, but
But it's extremely unethical.
yeah, but he didn't get rich from that. He got rich from marrying some rich lady. So he's fine.
Oh yeah, wasn't there like some weird? Wasn't she like mentally like
I don't know.
unstable and shit too? Didn't he?
I
Like,
mean, isn't he?
did he like no?
You don't think he
No,
was?
no. If the finances are going up and the lies are just spilling out, then he's plenty fucking stable. He knows exactly what he's goddamn doing.
I just think he was an idiot. Anyway,
If he's just a fucking idiot, he just would have been screeching on the fucking street.
well, almost as if he needed to stick his dick out into open water further than it was, Rabelais produced a sequel to Gargantua and Pantagruel the next year called The Third Book of the Heroic Deeds and Sayings of Good Pantagruel. I think he knew he was being investigated at this point, but I don't think he knew just how much shit he was actually in. I mean, if you think about it, he wrote the prequel to Pantagruel 2 years after the first book because it was such a huge success, but he waits 12 years until he gets in trouble with the goddamn church to publish the next one. There's no way that's a coincidence. So, worse yet, the third book is unlike the others. Instead of just fart humor and hidden allusions to the church, it's composed of serious debates between Pantagruel and his friend Panurge, the guy who did the dog pheromones on the lady. Coincidentally, on matters that were plaguing the church at the time. So he's going directly for the jugular with no clue that they're ready to pull the trigger on him. So Pantagruel and Panurge are seeing how best to rule the people of Dipsody, the country they just conquered from King Anarchus, and how to construct new laws. They talk first of moneylenders and debtors, a subject which had been a sore one to the church ever since they allowed people to be saved from hell for a small fee, which at this point had been a couple 100 years past. That was what Dante was mad about, too. Then Pantagruel and Panurge bring up the hotly debated topic from this era called Querelle des Femmes, or the woman question. Basically, as the Renaissance loomed over society and philosophers stopped asking, define a chair, and instead were asking more humanist questions like, why isn't she getting paid the same? The church was coming up with possible reformations within its own structure, debating whether or not a woman should be allowed more rights. Rabelais, using the third book as a soapbox, kind of hits a middle ground, disappointingly. He gives women equal rights in some areas, but basically equates them to lesser beings. Not great.
No, we don't. We do not give out awards here for good for the time.
No, I'm not.
No, we do not give good boy points for good for the time.
Nope.
We don't. No good boy points here.
I'm just saying, very middle ground for the time, unfortunately.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bad.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And Rabelais has gotten kind of an unfair rap as a woman hater because the women in Gargantua and Pantagruel, parts 1 and 2, aren't exactly treated with the utmost respect. But he does kind of reel it in a bit in this book where he lays down rules in Dipsody where women can earn an income and be property owners. I wouldn't call Rabelais a feminist by any means, but he didn't really give off incel vibes either, if you know what I mean. But I will say...
I got some incel vibes off it. The dog pee-pee thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying in this book in particular.
Take that. You reject my friend? Well, now you're covered in dog urine.
Ha ha.
That'll show you.
I will say, though, he did write, outside of the books about never getting laid. So even though he was once a monk, he clearly wasn't hanging on to his vows. He did, by the way, have 2 kids.
It seemed like he wanted to not hang on to his vows.
Yeah.
And then he kept hanging on to them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes for several years at a time, he hung on to the vows more, and he was like, God damn it, why am I hanging on to my vows?
Yeah, he was kind of pissed off about just not getting sexed up. He did have 2
That's
kids.
what that is!
Well, he did have 2 kids at one point, sometime in 1540, so 5 years before this book, but the only records we have say that they were baptized. The mother was a widow whose name we don't know, and they weren't married, and the children were named Francois and Junie. That's it. That's all that we know about it. Anyway, back to the story. Pantagruel's friend Panurge wishes to get married, but doesn't know if it's the right thing to do. So they do what's called a Virgilian lottery, and this is a real thing. The Iliad by Virgil, you recall, is written in such a poetic manner that you can apparently ask a question, open the book to a random page, and find an answer, like a fortune cookie. The words may mean nothing, but you can make up an answer. So when Panurge does it, they find a passage that says if he gets married, he, quote, will be a cuckold, will be beaten, and will be robbed. That's apparently a line in the Iliad. Or, what is it? The Aeneid. But as clear as that answer is, Panurge still interprets this message differently. He seems to think he'll be just fine. So for half the book, Pantagruel and Panurge visit oracles, madmen, and fortune tellers, and they all come up with the same answer. They even visit a man who claims to have a magic chicken that pecks out grains with letters on them that spell out words, and he calls Panurge, the chicken, he spells out cuckold to be. Yet Panurge still believes that he can have a happy marriage. Now to him and Pantagruel, true oracles used to exist back in the old days before Christ, but went extinct once Christianity took over. But supposedly there's still one out there. So as a final test, Pantagruel and Panurge, along with some friends, decide to travel to the Oracle of the Holy Lantern, a pagan seer of old. The book ends with them preparing for their journey, where Pantagruel brings with him a big old bag of what he calls Pantagruelian. It's fucking ganja, dude. For real, this is the earliest mention of sativa. I'm not kidding. They packed up a big old fat bag of weed. It's all over the place. Yeah.
This shit doesn't grow in fucking Europe.
Yeah, it does. What are you talking about? It grows wild.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It grows wild. There are places that you can go that are just like, it's out there.
I thought that was like an American thing.
Mm-mm.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway.
I mean, like, you know.
If it was at one point,
I think
which it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
If it was at one point, this is 1550, let's say. That would mean like people have already gone to the New World and come back.
Hang on. Google time.
All right.
Google time.
So, as it turns out,
Okay.
Central Asia or Western China.
God damn. All right.
First documented use dates back to 2800 BC. I can see this becoming a Seth Rogen movie. It's like, hey guys, we're gonna go out on an adventure to find the original strain, the Tibetan sativa.
Why is Seth Rogen Kermit the Frog?
Because he sounds like Kermit the Frog to me.
He does kind of sound like Kermit the Frog, actually.
He sounds like a big fucking dork.
Big old dingus.
So the thing is, when the third book dropped, the Catholic Church fully damn well knew who was writing these fucking books by now. Are you looking for the beer?
Yes.
Where'd you put it?
I don't know. I thought I had it in here.
I thought so too. Is it behind you?
I don't know, dude.
What the fuck?
Oh,
Thank God. Oh,
it's
Jesus.
back. Okay.
There's like nothing in here but chairs and beer, so
I know,
it would have been weird to lose it.
That was really alarming. Wow.
So when the third book dropped, the Catholic Church fully damn well knew who was writing these fucking books by now.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because Rabelais dropped the moniker at some point and just went by his real name. And this book was just as popular as the last two, so they learned about it pretty quick. And although they had no badges and no real jurisdiction, the church finally took steps to condemning Rabelais and his works. They destroyed all copies they came across being sold by vendors. And eventually, production of the books had to be halted under threat of death as well. But those were just his books.
What are they worried about exactly?
You know what? They're too fun. They're too goddamn fun for God.
It can't be that simple.
That's really it. They foresaw these books as adherence to gluttony, and that was their biggest fucking problem. They were like, hey, whoa, if you tell people to get drunk and be happy, we're going to have some fucking issues. So, like, that was it. And it's like, yeah, so anyway. Eventually, production of the books had to be halted, but to me, the single threat they made to Rabelais was a lot more fucked up. So here's the direct threat that they had to Rabelais. Since he first arrived at Lyon and started working with Griffius at the press, Rabelais got to know and better become friends with the popular writers in the area. One of those was a man named Etienne Dolet. Now, Dolet was a pretty controversial guy. Back in 1528, Erasmus had released a paper called The Ciceronian, which stated that as the great scholar Cicero lived before Jesus' time, it meant that his works were pagan and therefore so was his Latin, meaning if you want to read the Bible in Latin, you have to make sure it's not in Cicero's dialect. And since Cicero popularized Latin, your Latin Bible probably is indeed a pagan Bible. It takes a lot of fucking strength to go through it, but that's basically... He's basically saying the popularized Latin is a pagan Latin, so therefore you have a pagan Bible. It's a stupid argument.
I'm following.
Yeah, I get what he's saying, but I feel like he was just trying to rustle jimmies. But it worked. Dolet was furious. He wrote a paper bashing Erasmus and using the same publisher as him, too, Sebastian Griffius. And Erasmus had to watch his ass because Dolet had a temper. He once killed a guy during an argument. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you could just fucking do that
Yeah.
back in the day, dude.
well, so apparently,
If you announced it first, you'd be like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker.
well, what was funny was apparently they had agreed to a duel and Dolet won, but murder was still illegal.
That's what I'm talking about.
It was still illegal though. It was illegal, but and after a few weeks into his prison sentence, he escaped and he spent a few weeks in the woods, writing the king for a pardon, and he and he just
And back
fucking
then,
got
all
it.
you had to do if you were like, you just had to evade police that were not as well equipped as now.
Yeah, you just evaded them long
And
enough
then you just
to
went
like,
across a border.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the Marquis de Sade did.
Yeah.
And Casanova, as a matter of fact.
Until they just forgot.
Yeah,
And
basically.
then he went back. It was like Red Dead,
Well, what this guy did was he wrote a letter to the king like, hey, so I'm
except
hiding.
without a bounty system. So I guess more like Grand Theft.
Sure, man. Whatever helps you connect the dots, I guess. Well, what Delay
I'm
did
trying.
was Delay just lived out in the fucking woods like a Red Dead character, but he wrote a letter to the king like, "Hey, I'm hiding. You won't find me. Please pardon me." And the king was like, "Fucking pardoned, done." And he didn't care, so
Pardon,
he still
you're
got
sick
it.
as fuck.
So either way, it just means he knows how to kill and get away with it at worst, you know? Well, Delay was outspoken about a lot of things, and it led to a lot of enemies too, including the Catholic Church. And he was a devout Christian, even publishing the New Testament in Caesarean Latin just to piss off Erasmus more, which would have aligned with the church's teachings. And yet, out of all the things he did to piss off the most amount of people, the church ended up arresting Delay under the charge that makes the least amount of sense: atheism. Delay was imprisoned.
Not murder.
Well, right? And that's the thing. Delay was a devout Christian, but he was imprisoned for 15 months, a longer sentence than his murder charge would have been.
Wait, 15 months for atheism?
Yeah.
Do they think the atheism would just leave his body?
Well, guess how long his murder charge was?
Yeah.
6 months.
No.
So, I don't know. But he was executed by hanging in a Parisian town square on his 37th birthday on August 3rd, 1546. His body was sent to his friend Francois Rabelais to use in a dissection class taught at the University of Montpellier. Now, it could be that Rabelais had asked to take Delay's body, but something in me says that this was a message from the church basically saying that he was next if he kept things up. So the church just up and kills his friend and sends it to him like, cut him open.
Go on.
Teach the class.
Proceed.
Which is fucking terrifying.
Please show the classroom the organs of an atheist.
And as you can see here, he has no heart.
He has no heart.
Yeah.
There are no organs. It's just little men fucking.
And just a small fucking brain. And I feel this was the case because soon after, Rabelais moved to the town of Turin in northern Italy, completely out of the country. And quickly, he made friends with a family of nobles called the Du Bellais. His best friend out of all of them was Jean du Bellay, who was a cardinal personally appointed by Pope Paul III, the guy who wants Rabelais dead, and John's older brother, Joachim du Bellay, who was a war advisor and general to the King of France. This meant that Rabelais' close contact with a man of the church and the guy who speaks to the King of France on at least a weekly basis would be his best bet to keep his head. He was even appointed as Jean du Bellay's personal doctor, so that when Jean left town, thus leaving Rabelais open to attack, he would have an excuse to just go with him. Jean even had Rabelais live with his brother Joachim in Turin just to make him as safe as possible, and Joachim even made him his patron so that he was near untouchable. Remember, a patron is someone paid to make you poetry and art and whatnot whenever you want. And I'm sure this was done just so no one would fuck with him even further. Otherwise, you had the king's general on you like, what, you're gonna fuck with my poet? And all of this may have seemed like overkill, but you have to remember, Etienne Delay didn't do anything either. The church was killing whoever they wanted left and right, and unfortunately, they rightfully believed that writers had the biggest impact. And just because Francois Rabelais wanted to make some fart jokes for a buck, his life would be in danger forever.
Well, I mean, he wasn't just making fart jokes for a buck. He was intentionally antagonizing them because he thought it was funny.
I mean, that part is funny.
I mean,
but at the same time,
like, let's
most
not
of it
paint
was
it that
about
way.
poop.
No. He knew exactly what he poked the bear there.
Oh, I know. But it's still stupid.
Should it have been a bear? No, but did he poke it? Yes.
Indeed, he did.
Let's not.
He poked it with his fucking pee that he like just was so strong. It fucking
Come on,
I get it.
Was that necessary? I mean, maybe after you wrote the first one, he was like, "Wait, you guys are mad about the drinking?" Okay,
well, but
no,
he
you're
didn't
dead.
know that. He didn't know that after the first two. But the thing is like they started like investigating him after 12 years, and he thought that this was like the first time that they were looking up his shit. But instead, he's just like, they're just getting mad about me now. wait until I make him mad a second time. And he doesn't know that he's actually getting him mad a third time and that's the last straw.
And they're really mad.
He's just a fucking idiot.
I mean,
Well, soon
I mean,
enough-
like, yeah, fuck them, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like, no, you're really, yeah.
I know.
Come on, like,
yeah, I'm not gonna go to fucking Yemen and just start making like haikus about how shitty the Taliban are. You know, like I think I would know my my crowd a little better than that. Well, soon enough, the Dubélé family petitioned to put Rabelais in an official position, making him the master of requests in France, even though he was still living in Italy, because rich people just get to do shit like that. Basically, he was the head notary for petitions and shit. Like, he stamped things. The Dubélés basically tried to push him into the highest position they could so the church would stop coming after him. And it kind of worked to a degree. Francois became this target for the church that was untouchable. Like, he wasn't the number one enemy. That'd be Satan. But whenever a member of the Dubélé family died, or if someone in the church died, like a senior officer or something, the new guy would always want to be the first one to prosecute Rabelais, and it just never happened. But it didn't mean that Rabelais wasn't still under the threat of death. Someone could easily slip in and slit his throat, and the church would be like, I don't know, it wasn't us. And I think he knew that his protection with friends could only go so far. At one point, Rabelais had to move from Turin to Metz to Meudon to Paris, all within the span of like a year. And it could have been for work, maybe, but something tells me he knew something was up. It finally got to the point where the Dubélé family just talked to the fucking King of France. Funnily enough, named King Francis I. I'm Francis of Francis. Well,
Francis of Francis the
Francis
first?
of Francis,
Yeah, the first. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, the first. Well, the king asked why the church wanted this guy dead so bad, so they presented him with the 3 volumes of Gargantua and Pantagruel. Guess what? King fucking loved it.
God damn it.
Immediately called off the hunt.
Oh, fuck, the king's a pervert.
In fact, when he learned the church had successfully put a stop to all copies of Gargantua and Pantagruel from being printed, he gave them the okay to have them started up again. So not only was Francois Rabelais able to come out of hiding, but the people were allowed to flock to the stands and buy the latest book of his, making him a ton of money. I don't want to put it out there that...
Oh, dude, they were even more pissed, weren't they?
Oh, the church?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. Oh,
Fuck yeah.
hell yeah. I don't want to put it out there, though, that King Francis was a chill guy, though. He hated Protestants. He killed a lot.
Yeah, not
He
trying
killed a
to
lot of Protestants.
not trying to put it out there as like, you know, a guy who thought, you know, drowning people in piss was funny or anything might have not been cool, but
But
like,
he did allow an artist to not be prosecuted by the church, which was neat, you know.
yeah.
But supposedly, the king and Rabelais ended up good friends. And this is all rumor, by the way, but supposedly, and it's a popular rumor, Rabelais would eat and drink everything he could at taverns and just rack up a huge amount of debt. And when the check came, he'd take out a flask and proclaim, quote, I'm going to poison the king. When the police would arrive, they'd take him before King Francis, who would laugh and let him go. So he would just bounce on the fucking check. And he would supposedly do this for every meal just so that he would never have to pay the check.
That's pretty good.
And the thing is, Paris has always been like a
Imagine
huge...
waking up from a blackout and you're like just getting drug away and you're like, oh yeah, no, we're good.
Oh, good, my bodyguards are here.
So fucking thank God.
Well, I mean, think about it though. He like, of course, he would never be able to hit the same place twice. But like, Paris it was huge even back then. You wouldn't be able to eat at the same place twice in your lifetime. You know, like it would have been fine. Yeah,
You just kept
especially over the course of years too. One place closes down, new place opens up. Hey, I'm here to
Every
poison the
night
king.
though? I mean,
You could.
well, not every night.
Well, maybe not.
Well,
Yeah.
not every night, but almost every night.
Well, that's the thing, though. This is more than likely bullshit. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think
I mean, he probably did it at least once. Maybe twice.
I would if I tested my luck on that and it worked, I would do it at least a dozen times
feel
before
like-
calling it quits.
I feel like it would be the same as like calling out, where I'd be like, okay, once every couple months they're gonna get suspicious.
Exactly. Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
However, the possibility that patrons will dine and dash before actually paying the bill in France to this day is called Le Quart d'Heure de Rabelais, or the 15 minutes of Rabelais. Still a term that they use today, apparently. Now, quite soon after the king declared Rabelais' works fit for publishing, I'm talking maybe a month or two later, King Francis I died at the age of 52 on his son's 28th birthday on March 31st, 1547. Immediately, the church went not after Rabelais himself, who they figured was probably quick to learn of the king's death and therefore had already skipped town, but instead to the French Parliament, who lawfully condemned Rabelais' works. This meant that he wasn't a criminal, but his works were to be banned forever. Francois Rabelais' last years are quite unknown. He still worked as the master of requests for the next several years, even felt lucky and tried to print the fourth volume of Gargantua and Pantagruel in 1552 called The Fourth Book of the Heroic Deeds and Sayings of Good Pantagruel, but the government put a stop to it before it could even hit the press. The next year, Francois Rabelais retired, living the rest of his life in Paris a free man, but he died later that year. As we don't know the correct
At what age? Yeah.
As we don't know the correct date of his birth, Rabelais was anywhere between 60 and 70 years old.
Oh, damn.
I mean, for back then, though, probably around the right time.
I guess.
Supposedly, he'd lost a bit of faith in his life, still considered himself a Christian, but his belief was waning. And because of that, his last words are rumored to be, quote, "I go to seek the great perhaps."
That doesn't sound very Christian. Like, at all.
Well, it's agnostic.
Yeah.
The fourth book of Gargantua and Pantagruel did still hit the streets soon after Rabelais' death, just not legally. It was only on stands for a couple months before being removed. And while the past books were episodic in nature, this one is a lot more so. Basically, Pantagruel and his crew go to different islands on the open sea, with each one holding a new adventure while they search for the pagan oracle, looking for an answer on whether or not Panurge will be a cuck. The first, remember, that's still their
Hey,
mission.
look, this one says yes. This one also says yes. This one says yes. Dude, stop.
Yeah, well,
Dude,
that's the joke.
like,
The first people they come across are actually from another ship, and it's this group of sheep herders transporting their stock to multiple kingdoms in the sea when they decide to gam with Pantagruel's boat. Panurge isn't wearing a codpiece, and he's got glasses on, so one of the sheep herders named Ding Dong, like that's his name, he's like, he sees this guy without a codpiece and glasses, and he goes, "God, he looks like a cuck."
Like, this guy doesn't have a fucking giant weird dick ornament.
And this, of course, strikes a nerve, and the two get into a small fight. Well, after they're broken up, Panurge is like, "All right, well, hey, sell me one of your sheep." And they figure it's in good faith, like a way to bury the hatchet, you know? So he buys a sheep, and Panurge, he picks it up, and he instantly chucks it in the water. And because the other sheep hear it making a noise in the water, they all stampede off the side of the ship, taking the sheep herders with them. And everyone drowns. And Panurge, he goes up to this priest they've brought with him, and he was like, "Hey, priest, was that bad, what I just did?" And the priest is like, "If your intent all along was for you to do that, you didn't need to pay the guy. Now your money's at the bottom of the ocean." And Panurge is like, "Yeah, but I'd pay good money to see it happen again." That doesn't sound like a cuck to me. It sounds like a good guy. The group visits many islands, including an island of inbreds, an island of lawyers that it's tradition to beat when they deliver their letters, and the island of the Chitterlings. Now, the Chitterlings are hostile to the newcomers, so war is immediately declared, but their battle is cut short when a giant red pig flies overhead and yells, "Carnival!" over and over and squirts mustard on the ground and just leaves.
This is Adventure Time.
Yes, actually.
100%.
Supposedly, this is some sort of metaphor for the church. I'm sure it is. I just haven't figured out what the fuck it is yet. I don't think anyone has. And so, this is an odd little factoid, but
sometimes a mustard shitting pig is just a mustard shitting pig.
Does that not sound like something the Pope would do? Well, so this is an odd little tidbit here, but some people believe that Francois Rabelais was a fortune teller. No idea why. And that this image of a pig flying overhead and squirting mustard is supposed to be a bomber plane. There's another scene where
That's a stretch, man.
right, exactly. There's another scene where Pantagruel and his crew are sailing through the water and they hear voices, but no one's there. And some say that this is supposed to be radio. I know they're
Fuck up. No, dude.
right? Like,
No, he's just saying random, like, wild ass shit.
yeah. I mean, fucking the Odyssey was like that too. It's a random shit. It doesn't have a deeper meaning. It's just neat.
It's just
That's all
neat.
it needs
It's
to
just
be.
fun. You know what it
Yeah.
is? In this fucking moment, it's entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. That's all.
Okay.
Look, man, my fucking dad just got burned at the stake for I don't know what. You know, sometimes I just want to read about pigs
Yeah, the
squirting
fucking the
mustard
red
and
pig
shitting.
fucking squirts mustard. Like, fuck. I don't know.
So anyway,
Fucking, if you saw some shit like that, you disassociate that as well.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So this book also, of course, had its share of attacks on the Catholic Church, where from the island of the Chitterlings, Pantagruel and his crew go to the blessed island of the Pope figures and the Papamaniacs. It's like papacy and maniacs together. Well, the people of the Pope fig weren't called that back in the olden days, but once upon a time, they visited the island of the Papamaniacs, and when they saw them worship the Pope, they said, quote, "A fig to your Pope," which I guess means fuck you. Well, the Papamaniacs pay an unwanted visit to the other islands soon after, and they kill all the men, leaving only the women and children alive. But only if they can win at a game. The game is this. The Papamaniacs have shoved a fig halfway up a donkey's asshole, and each woman and child on the island will have to remove the fig and put it back in if they want to live.
Wait,
But-
remove and put back in to the donkey.
Yeah, the fig. But they can't use their hands.
Can they use their hands to grasp a tool?
Nope.
So it's got to be mouth then.
Yep. More entertaining than fucking baseball, though, I'll tell you.
Can you use it? Can you use a tool with like your elbows, but like taped to them?
You know, I feel like they would have just killed you and just moved on to the next person. They ain't got all day. Fucking use your teeth, bastard.
You're gonna eat this donkey's ass or not?
The whole book ends.
Jesus, Murph.
The whole book ends rather abruptly, with the crew sailing off once again, as they've never found the Oracle, clearly with the idea that their journeys would be followed up in a sequel. It's hard to say how successful the book was, as it was illegal to own, but I imagine people loved it. There was actually a man named Richard Breton in 1565, 11 years after the publication of the last book, who printed a book of fan art called The Drolatic Dreams of Pantagruel. This was a series of 120 woodcut images of characters, not from any scene depicted in the books, but just surrealist art supposedly inspired by them. And they are extremely weird. Think Monty Python.
You know what I'm thinking right now, actually?
Hmm.
I mean, aside from like the obvious, like, dude, I mean, the Monty Python Holy Grail thing is pretty.
They actually, I don't know how much of Gargantua and Pantagruel were like inspirations to them, but I do know, like, when I took an art history class specifically on Renaissance images in college, we had an entire day where the professor showed us like what like images from Caravaggio and shit like that make their way into Monty Python skits. All of these dudes were huge art historian fans.
It's more like it's more like the style of humor.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like the battle, like never happening after build up type thing. Like, you know, just wait. What are you looking around for?
I don't know where my cider went. It's okay.
That's okay. Did it go in your body?
Did you put it up my butt with your teeth?
Uh,
Oh, I got Pope figged.
see, there's a segue right there.
Yeah, that's the end of the episode anyway.
No, it's not. We still got 2 more pages. I've been counting them down. God.
So anyway, in this book, the creatures are often wearing Catholic frocks and seen doing stupid shit. But since it looks so fucking odd, I guess no one in the church noticed, and the book made its way through Europe where people said, Jesus, this is inspired by a book where a man's got a peacock head for a dick? I want to read that. So it popularized Gargantua and Pantagruel in countries where it hadn't even been translated out of French yet. Salvador Dali actually did his own version of these woodcuts back in 1973. They are really fucking cool, but they have nothing, like, it's just based on scenes. That's it. And I don't have anywhere else to really put this, so I'm just going to put it here since we're already talking about art. But most illustrations of Gargantua and Pantagruel people know today are from French artist Gustave Doré, who in his early career in 1854 did only about 15 panels for the collection of Gargantua and Pantagruel that he was commissioned for. And he would go on to be known for his beautiful depictions of Dante, Cervantes, Shakespeare, Tennyson, and Victor Hugo. But closer to the end of Doré's life in 1873, he went back and made over 400 more pictures of Gargantua and Pantagruel. So I guess he was more of a scat man than he ever really admitted.
Paintings?
They're drawings, woodcut images, most part. But like he only made like 15 at first, and then he went back at the end of his life that were much more graphic.
He was like, no, this shit's fire.
Spread ass cheeks, shitting down legs. Like they fucking thought it was hilarious. Hey man, that's French humor through the ages. You know, they love it. They really show it off with the smell of the city.
God damn it.
Anyway, so Rabelais' work went largely untranslated from its native French until 1653, 101 years after his death. Scottish aristocrat Sir Thomas Urquhart translated it to English, though the translations are apparently quite liberal.
Oh, we're back to the translations, huh?
Yeah, but only 2 of the 3 planned volumes of Rabelais' work would be published in Sir Urquhart's lifetime, the last volume published 40 years later. Because, as legend has it, Sir Urquhart died of laughter when he heard that the exiled King Charles II would be able to return home and keep his throne. I guess comedy was just different back then.
I'm sure that's what happened.
Oh! And then when he died, he shit and pissed down his fucking leg.
Shit down his throat, actually. His own throat.
His own throat. Now, in between this period of Sir Urquhart's death and the 3rd volume of Rabelais' work, there just so happened to be a new posthumous volume of Gargantua and Pantagruel released in 1654, coincidentally, right when his works were becoming hot again. The 5th and last book of the heroic deeds and sayings of good Pantagruel was probably not written by Rabelais at all, although some people believe it was compiled from drafts of his unfinished work. Apparently, the first printing of the book had just 15 chapters in it, which would have been what Rabelais really wrote. And these are short chapters, by the way, usually only a few pages each. But then the second printing of the book had 47 chapters, so I don't think Rabelais had anything to actually do with it. Apparently, no one else really thinks so either. My copy of Gargantua and Pantagruel doesn't even include it. But it would not only be a good way for whoever is faking it to make money, but the ire of the Catholic Church would be directed to a dead guy as well, rather than whoever really wrote it. But anyway, the 5th book is kind of the same as the last one, where the crew voyages to more islands, but the metaphor for things are a lot more heavy-handed than they were before, like an island of monks that just masturbate and fuck each other all the time.
It's not a metaphor at all. That's literally what we were joking around about earlier, in a non-metaphoric fashion.
Yeah, like, it's not clever.
It's probably not him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do finally get to the island of the Oracle that they're looking for, and after many ridiculous rituals like throwing stones in a well and listening to the words that echo out of it through a bottle, they find they find that Panurge will in fact be happily married, not a cuckold. Their journey at an end,
or happily married if he is a cuckold.
True, actually. Their journey at an end, the crew leaves for home, and that's just the end of it. Now, for long after his death, Rabelais was considered a militant atheist, very anti-Christian, and that, of course, all stemmed from the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I thought he was actually pretty fucking...
Yeah, it isn't true. He wasn't anti-Christian, he was anti-corruption. If anything, he closely followed his admirer Erasmus, so he was maybe between a Catholic and a Protestant at best. But remember, in a time of church rule, Rabelais was a man of science in the dawn of the Renaissance age. And science was something that the church very much looked down on.
Seemed like he was just a man of farts, really.
A man of the fartest as a young man.
Yeah.
He was a monk, but he saw firsthand how neglectful monks were towards education, so he shied away from it. The idea that Rabelais was anti-Christian was popular through at least the 1920s, where even leading Rabelais scholar Abel Lefranc pushed the idea. But it's not too surprising that this guy was peddling bullshit when you realize Lefranc, the scholar, he was one of the first people to suggest that Shakespeare never existed. You ever hear about that theory? That Shakespeare was really a committee of people and they all wrote under the same name? It's bullshit. But
at this point, probably.
I've looked it up and it was like, there's very little evidence to go across this. It's just a dude trying to sell shit. So he lied. you know. I actually found an online Catholic encyclopedia that had a result when you typed in Francois Rabelais' name. And although this description does come from a book from 1872, it's still weird to put it on your website if you don't believe it yourself. So anyway, this is what it says about him. Quote, Rabelais was a revolutionary who attacked all the past, scholasticism, the monks. His religion is scarcely more than that of a spiritually minded pagan. Less bold in political matters, he cared little for liberty. His ideal was a tyrant who loves peace. His strange fictions seem to be a veil behind which he conceals his ideas, for he desires his readers to imitate the dog to whom a bone has been thrown and who must break it in order to reach the marrow. But many of his gigantic buffooneries were merely the satisfaction of a vast humor and boundless imagination. He took pleasure in the worst obscenities.
Where'd you find this?
That was a Catholic encyclopedia online. So yeah, I guess some Catholics still hold a grudge against him some 500 years later, I guess. I don't know.
Well, fucking late enough for it to be on the internet.
Yeah, just fucking let it go, dude. It's about pee.
Jesus, Murph. Dude.
Love and peace. But since the Renaissance days, Rabelais has become an admired figure in literature. He's been compared to Shakespeare and James Joyce for his lyricism mixed with scat humor. James Joyce having even mentioned him in passing, actually, in Ulysses, calling him, quote, Master Francois somebody.
Okay, I wouldn't. I'm not gonna lie here. I thought the poop thing was gonna be way weirder than it was.
I mean,
it was just him thinking poop was funny.
Yeah, basically. I mean, isn't that the best that anyone can really do, though, when it comes to scat humor? I mean, if anybody wanted to go further
you didn't say scat humor. You just said there was going to be poop, and I was like, oh shit, this is going to be like Marquis de Sade, except with like not just farts this time. Like we're going all the way.
No, it's full on
ramping it up.
Meat sliders.
This is like somebody dusted up some Marquis de Sade shit, fucking blew it off, and then was just like, great, I'm going to amp this up. Is what I was expecting. So I'm really glad we went in this direction. I've been genuinely entertained the whole time and relieved, as a matter of fact.
Oh, don't relieve here. Relieve it in the mouths of
Shut
your
the fuck up. But it's pretty good, though. Nice.
Aldous Huxley loved his fart jokes, but George Orwell did not, calling him, quote, an exceptionally perverse morbid writer, a case for psychoanalysis. Today, Francois Rabelais is considered one of the most important writers and comic geniuses in history. Remember, we all had to start somewhere. And him and Chaucer were pretty much it. And as a final note, I would be remiss not to mention the story of the Abbey of Thelema, which Gargantua visits in Book 2. While he was expecting a house of God, Gargantua instead finds the monks partying. He says, quote, all their life was spent not in laws, statutes, or rules, but according to their own free will and pleasure. The story of this anti-church was used by one man when setting up his refuge in Sicily in 1920 when he called his new home the Abbey of Thelema. That man was Aleister Crowley.
God damn it. Fuck you, Jordan. Wow, I wish you'd give that much thought into, like, a segue.
Aleister Crowley, he was a man of farts, though. I mean, he really, you know what?
Fartist.
Let me go into my sources before I get into that. My sources today: The Portable Rabelais by Francois Rabelais, translated by Samuel Putnam, The Viking Press, 18th printing, January 1970. The 15 Minutes of Rabelais by Jan Whitaker, restaurantingthroughhistory.com, August 15th, 2013. The Demon Doodles of 1565 by Hochelaga, youtube.com, April 20th, 2022. Fascinating YouTube channel, by the way. Hochelaga does lots of medieval art stuff. Very good. Newadvent.org, that's the Catholic encyclopedia, and Wikipedia. Aleister Crowley thought that like any part that comes out of a man could be used in magic. So there was a lot of there was a lot of cum, there was a lot of poo-poo, there was a lot of pee-pee.
Okay. Oh god, it's so funny.
He gave it a go. He really tried.
One, believing in magic in general is fucking hilarious. Like, instead of just being like, oh, that's really neat that you know how to do that little trick. That's cool, man. I know. Like, that's legitimately cool. Good job with that. Look, but actually believing in magic and then adding on poop.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look, here's the thing. Before science was, like, truly proven to be absolutely correct when we, like, did things like, destructured DNA and so. Well, I mean, look, science is like, even today, it's like, well, there are some things that science can't explain. I mean, maybe that part's God, maybe that part's magic. It's like, no, it's just parts that science is yet to explain.
Science is a process.
I know.
It's not.
Exactly. But back in 1920 with Aleister Crowley, science was like, it was there. It made electricity happen. But more than that, it was like...
It was enough for you to know that you couldn't summon something with human shit.
Not enough. Not yet.
Or
not until
anything.
Aleister Crowley
Jesus
went just absolutely balls to the wall, tried so hard. He did actually create a demon child. He did create he created an Antichrist through a ceremony. Mm-hmm. The Antichrist, however, changed their name legally. I don't think has come out about any of it and works a very normal job and doesn't want to be a part of any of this because they think that their father is fucking stupid.
Okay, so he did not create an Antichrist.
Correct.
Anyway, thoughts about the writer we just spoke of.
Now, Rabelais, look, I'm going to say, reading through it, it is fun. It's nobody who I'm going to go back and read again.
He is the pee-pee poo-poo man.
He is the pee-pee poo-poo man. Chaucer is fun in the sense that, like, from a historical context, knowing that this is where some things come from, but he wasn't all over the fucking place as Francois Rabelais was. Rabelais was fucking a master of scat, And
can you please title this one "The Pee Pee Poo Poo Man"? Can you do that for me?
I can only try.